that's her life. I mean, and then who's there to, you know, control the performance? I mean, the directors overrun too, and often they're not really, they're writers, you know, they're not really people who are used to working on sets and working with actors and blocking and shot design. So they are shown little snippets of things, you know, once a month. So it's tricky. Huh?
In 2011, in the American Clubhouse in Los Angeles, we were sitting. Ron was there. 60 directors of photography from all around the world. We watched a presentation of a system that it was called Previs, a pre-visualization system. And the reaction of the directors of photography, they were Haskell Wexler, she's 92 years active director of photography, and younger photographers. And the reaction was difficult, I can say. But at the end, everybody was thinking that is a system you have to involve. And they asked us to involve in a way that we can be creative through the system in visualizing the films. Well, we told them that we did it before with pencil and paper, but then we show us that you can do it animated on a computer screen. Why not? So everybody on the set, they know very well what exactly we're going to shoot. I would like to hear your thoughts about this.
A lot of it is also to build those sets. You have to be very precise. I worked on a Gorodievsky movie. It never happened because the budget went beyond 250 million, and then they stopped it. But we had a room like this size with 30 previs guys working every day on a sequence, and every Friday we would review. And they already had almost the entire film constructed, and has all the lens information and all the light information. It's based on storyboards that the director created with the storyboard artist, pen, and then it goes to an illustrator, then it goes to the previous guys, and they work on it, and then we review the cinematographer, the director, and we change things. We change the shot, the height, the lighting. So it's a long process. I mean, that was probably, you know, on the biggest level, having that many people working on it. But on a movie like that, when you have to budget a movie like that, I mean, we're talking, you know, 200 million, you can't really control cost or calculate cost unless you have a certain idea of, you know, the set, how it, you know, Rick Heinrichs, who's Academy Award-winning designer, was a designer, and he would see the previs, and he would construct, you know, we have 9 stages at Universal, and he would construct it based on the tools that are available that I would discuss with him to actually execute these shots. So it'd be like, okay, in order to do this shot, you need a 50-foot techno. It needs to, you know, move 6 feet on this track. You know, it's going to start looking straight down, pull back, and swing this way. So I actually have to rotate this set 25 degrees, otherwise the 50-foot techno will hit this column here. So it's, you know, it's very complicated, and it involves, you know, the set construction, pre-production, and to budget. You know, those shots you have to budget each shot, and you can't do it unless you know exactly how long the shot is. No one can budget the movie, so that's part of it. But, you know, those movies are those specific films. I mean, it's not, I mean, there are not that many made, and probably nobody in this room will end up really shooting one of them. I mean, I don't think, you know, it's going to become the way of doing things. I mean, those are very expensive films.
And I think we are all different individuals, and maybe some of us are not interested to do that kind of films. And everybody develops kind of handwriting after a while, and you are asked for that quality, or for that what the director understands from your quality, so I think it's not really a problem. You find specialists for that. I remember my really first work for a film was animation film, and I was never interested to change the sheets all second, you know. But that was the first job I got as an assistant. Yeah, then I never did it again. And someday I really talented for that. It's still a talent to have that mathematical thinking. I would be very unhappy in such a project. And all of you, it's no need to be bass and sopran at the same time. Goes faster.
I want to thank you for the quality and the humanity of your being here. It was having such a story of filmmaking, all of you. You approached us one-to-one to our questions, and it's great to have you here. It was great of the organizers to bring you here. And I'm sure I take the liberty to talk of all the people present. That's an honor for us to participate in your discussion. Having said that, I would like to ask, starting with Christian first, and of course to all of the panel, is on a period piece like The Notebook or The White Ribbon. I would like to talk to us about how you arrived to the aesthetics of them, each movie individually. Of course, we know we take care of clothes, sets, and everything. And what were the demands on the cinematography of each film, and how do you arrive on that?
Very good question, and a difficult one. I think the first question I have to find an answer for myself or together with the director is, do you want to have it historical or do you want to transport it for today? That was in all three films I showed today, the examples, White Ribbon, in the Ludwig, and in the Notebook. The main question: are we interested to reproduce the past, or do we want to transport the story, which takes place 1900, for example, for today? And out from that answers, you have already the basic for the style. As you mentioned before for yourself, the rest is evident with costumes and so on.
And something else I wanted to mention is that when you talked about what was the interest in a composition, is this one of you said it and then it was repeated in a different way, but all of the three of you, is the psychology of the scene, which proved brilliantly in the examples you show us of White Ribbon earlier on. The psychology, and of course the support of the photography, but the psychology was the element of the sequence that made it, as you said, masterpiece. And you were very much involved with it, and it's just a comment I just wanted to say.
It's funny because it's so rare that you do, I don't know how it's for you, but to know during a shooting that at least that scene will be a masterpiece is very rare. For the whole film, you never know. You never know, it can turn around completely. But for certain scenes, you are sure. Even then you can have a mistake because with the editing or whatever, it got lost. Or another scene which you were never believing in is suddenly the leading one or the best one. But sometimes, and this was the case, and I think it was really because of the emotionally way from the little boy. He asks, must everybody die?
Brilliant dialogue, brilliant everything. And how did you, could you tell us about how do you set up the scenes? Was two cameras, was one camera, one person, and then the other one? Would you like to talk to us a bit about it?
Yeah, it's a good question because it was not typical for Haneke découpage. You say découpage?
We use the same word in Greek, découpage.
Découpage, the shooting. Yeah. Because he hates to have one shot here, one shot there. But in favor to really achieve that quality from the boy, it was a need. And the boy had big problems with the text, just to memorize, not to express, to memorize. And he was naming his sister always with her right name. He forgot that it was not Annie. Annie was only the character, so he called her with her right name. Then we had to interrupt, and Haneke is really not the most patient director. So that's why we did one direction and the other direction. And first, of course, the boy, because the girl was already half professional. And a completely conventional down, just to protect or to give the best chance for the boy.
You said the same thing for the twins. You protected the twins in the notebook as well, you said.
I have done a subject too, if you don't have. No, he has a question.
From your point of view, as cinematographers, what are the elements that make a good scenario? And what piece of advice you would give to a new script writer?
That's, I think, a rather difficult question for a cinematographer to answer. Giving advice, but we certainly know when we read a script. If you're truthful about the story you're going to make and you follow it through, you feel it on the page, and if you can't react to it on the page, you will not react to it on the screen. I think that's the first thing that someone should follow.
I think a good script is, for me, is then a good script when I have no idea of an image. What has to be said, I speak now about dialogue or so, that's the good thing, it has to be said. And what can be shown, you should shut up. It's an old rule, say only what's necessary and show only what only a picture can show. And a good script is based on that. That's why some of the scripts have only dialogues lately. They don't take care of anything, they just have the situation, a couple, and then the text. That was the case with the notebook. It's only very strict and laconic dialogues in the script, nearly. In the novel already, not only the film script was even growing a little.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to second what Christians who said. I mean, I think when you read screenplays by writers that aren't that experienced, then they in the action description portion of it, they go into way too much detail with that. So if you, same with Alexander Payne, I mean, it's just dialogue, it's very precise dialogue, and the action and description is very brief, and that's really,
everything derives from that.
yeah, and that's really for a director. Now, if the director is a writer, then he can have maybe a version for himself where he has additional notes, or you end up taking the script and making all your, but maybe as a separate document, or if you can fit it, you can handwrite it in. But a script should be nice and lean, and should be a quick read, and you don't need to dictate too much of the visuals and the camera movements or